Hello. Apologies for the very perfunctory opener. I really had the worst time trying to think of the best way to start this. Maybe I could have thrown in a deer for good measure, but truthfully, I don't have much interest in making this another one of my placating performances. For once, I have every intention of speaking my mind, of not letting all these thoughts fall by the wayside. It's nothing bad, though, or at the very least, nothing either of us haven't already gathered. The point is, we haven't been the most candid with each other recently, and I would like to fix that. Be warned, this is going to be fairly long for my standards. After you last contacted me, I was thrown into a panic the likes of which I had not felt in quite some time. The news that my work would go to waste, that it had all been pointless and Repeton would be unceremoniously destroyed with no chance of recourse. Now I know we've all been bamboozled and misled, but at the time it was harrowing. All of that effort and study, forcibly sent down the drain by circumstances outside my control. I was left scrambling, trying to salvage anything that might make a difference, anything I could get my hands on. None of it mattered much, of course, as my supervisor relieved me of my duties soon afterward. Lovely woman, does not care for me in the slightest. I have mentioned Miss Heckrix here and there before. You could say this is not the first time we haven't seen. Nope, not going to even consider dropping excessive quirk-related puns during this speech. Sorry if you were expecting more of them. I doubt you were, given the fact that you know me, but just covering my apologetic bases. Anyway, over the course of the night, every stage of grief was ran through in rapid succession. There's no other way to say it. I was practically useless as server and client, both due to my ill-timed panic spiral. When I spoke to Miss Briati before my entry, I thought the helpless sensation akin to falling. Looking back on it now, it was more like everything crumbling around me, like being crushed under endless rubble with no way of getting back up again. And you're aware of how stressful situations impact my condition more than anyone else. What I find strange is that this time around, everyone else was also privy to what my third eye tends to show me. Truth be told, I am still not sure what to make of it. All I know is that the descriptions Miss Amali and the others provided of those creatures strike a familiar note. I tried to tell Calder some of this back when he connected to me, but, well, he didn't care to hear it, which I cannot entirely blame him for. I've heard that the two of you have been working together amicably. I can't say I'm not surprised, but that might be the best sort of course correction he could hope for. We don't get along like we used to, and anything I could have to say about his demeanor would surely fall on deaf fins. Not that he doesn't have every reason to be pissy with me, really. You do too. But I digress. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. After I entered the game, I found myself in this haze state of near delirium, and then I met my denizen. He goes by Wormwood. Militant fellow, blind too. My consorts act as his eyes. There are these taciturn, rock-like creatures that fly and survey the planet in his stead. He didn't seem too keen about my presence atop his introspective petri dish, I will tell you this much. Though it wasn't anger I was met with, he looked exhausted, like he'd had this conversation hundreds of times before in the exact same way. Turns out that my hunch wasn't too far off. Prince was the only way I was referred to for the whole chat. Not a word that his carbo loader took much shine to. "You're a disruption," he said. "Those of your kind always feel like they're owed something. You princes are all I've ever known." No idea what he meant by that, so I prodded him along to seek answers. "You're an establishment that needs to be torn down, a wall that can't be climbed, stagnant to the core, full of impurities that eat at your gizzards from the inside." And it got me thinking, what if he's right? What if everything I've been doing has just made me worse? No well-intentioned reasoning can change the fact that my pursuits were a losing battle, both in terms of my own health and in theory. Yet I had so much pride for it, as if nobody else could pick up where I left off if I didn't see through it myself. For as much effort as I put into my work, I haven't given the same amount back in other facets of my life. I could rationalize this as just being a servant to the system. Isn't that how it goes for everyone? Delusional wage slaves clutching at every opportunity to care more about doing something rather than why it is being done. We don't have a system that typically allows one the chance to do what they love for a living. It just so happened that I have a passion for strict toil for blinks on end, I suppose. But that's not really true. It sounds unlike me, but I insisted on my research so doggedly because I was resentful. I felt that I had answers and that they deserved recognition, and I wasn't taken seriously no matter how far I got. I did feel like I was owed something I never got, but kept chasing anyway while expecting different results, because otherwise it would have all been for nothing. Sunk cost fallacy at its finest. Maybe in that regard, this is a punishment. This is the thanks I get for so many squandered opportunities. I gave so much of myself for so little. Ceaseless hours of study repaid in money I didn't want and suspicious looks. Don't misunderstand. I'm not arguing that my objective wasn't admirable, or that what we tried to accomplish together wasn't worthwhile, because I know how much you believed in it too. I'm arguing that I was failed. We all were. And now we're put in a position to fix this by any means necessary. This game being said means, and we the necessary ones. Might be a bit of a non sequitur, but do you remember how you felt after we met? Yes, it's a bit of an odd question, but I don't mean the exact feelings as much as I do the retrospective itself. To think you, of all people, would find me at my lowest, breaking your strict code of conduct just because you cared about some stranger. I've gotten to do the same for you later on, I know, but I just meant this first moment specifically. Many would call it serendipity taking its course, soulmates being drawn to each other and given an opportunity to flourish. But I never intended for our meeting to be so intertwined with romantic ardor or chemicals, or my work either, for that matter. It was as surprising to me then as much as it is now, because I feel like I didn't deserve it. Kindness for its own sake. You took care of me, as sick and incomprehensible as I was, no more than a washed-up corpse. You talked me through the fever and the apparitions in my mind. You listened, and you liked me. That's the scariest part of all. I still can't make sense of it. I never could. I've always felt like something was different about me. Our society is built on these strict expectations of strong feelings and the mutual understanding of what we can do for others, or what others can do for you. But I don't understand other people, and other people don't understand me either. So what else do I have besides the capability to work? Why have people depend on me when I'm terrible at returning the favor? And what's worse, why do I have to be aware of how awful I am at it? I don't even get blissful ignorance with my ineptitude, Elsie. Not as much as I'd like. My instincts tell me that you would say if something was wrong between us, with me. But deep down, I recognize that you don't because you're scared of how I might react. That I won't get it. Even if we don't talk or see each other as much as we should, I could still hear you in my mind. I see you and everyone else I've ever spoken to. You're all there, and I don't know how to face any of you. So I keep to myself, and I don't say anything. It makes me feel like a monster, that I'm incapable of doing anything except what I've been told to do, what's been pointed out. It's easy for me to put work first because facing this kind of failure just means that you have to try again. You don't always get that chance with people. There's no cure-all for emotional damage or making the wrong choice with the right person. No blood to be spilled, no corpse to be reanimated. Do you know why I thought that immortality could very well be a solution to what ails us? It's because it would make life easy. Because I get tired, Elsie. I do. I'm tired of working without substance. I'm tired of not being by your side. So I'm going to use what this game has to offer to change that. I thought that this was the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen to me at first. But after it all settled, I've come to the conclusion that I was wrong. This is exactly what I needed. Maybe it can lead to something better. Something that doesn't put either of us at risk. Where we can be close like we used to. I'm going to work on finding my way to you as soon as I'm done responding to this latest memo I was just tagged in. Might be good to check in for once, as I fear I may be preoccupied for a spell. The so-called checkpoints on my planet are spread very far and wide, as are any gates that will direct me to other planets. So once these conversations wrap, my hands will be tied until I find you again. Apparently, there's a raging storm roiling across the land that I need to quell, and it's not advised to be caught in it. Lucky me that I get the place where our hydrophobic survival tactics come in handy. Not sure how to end this monologue. It was a very roundabout way of explaining what you mostly already know. I'm sorry about everything. That was what I meant with all of this, just in case it wasn't clear. I love you too, by the way. I realized I forgot to say back in one of our earlier conversations. Can't recall why. I'll be sure to say it every time from here on out. I promise.